Good Tuesday morning. I'm Father Steve from St. Bridget's Hermitage, and this is Moments with the Master. Today is the 22nd day of December 2020, and we're now in the third week of Advent. Our readings today come from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 24 through 28. Also, 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. And where I'll draw my reflections, the Gospel according to St. Luke chapter 1, verses 46 through 56. Folks, as we're halfway through Advent, I pray that you've kept up with your readings, your prayer, your meditations, and I really pray that the hustle and bustle of the secular side of Christmas hasn't brought you down, and you maintain your joy of Christ, your happiness at this point. Well, in today's readings, we find a statement from the Virgin Mary. We find a statement about her unborn Son, our Lord Jesus. And this passage is often referred to as the Magnificat. And that comes from the Latin Vulgate, which means to magnify, which we find Mary doing through this 10 verses. She's magnifying our Lord Jesus Christ. She's magnifying God for what he's done, what he's going to do. And we find a great correlation between this passage and a lot of the Hebrew scriptures, especially in the Psalms. But we have to ask ourselves, why did St. Luke decide to put this song at this point in the narrative? The narrative would have been fine without it. It would have gone just as well. So there must have been a reason why Luke decided he was going to put the narrative or the song in the narrative right now. Very much like he inserts the Song of Zacharias further in chapter 1 in verses 68 and 79. So, in reading this passage, I think I've come up with, for myself, at least 4 reasons why Luke would have put this song in at this point. And the first is going to be obviously the praise to God, the praise for the long-awaited Messiah, a praise for what he's going to do for the children of Israel. Now, according to the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer, when he writes about this passage, I'm going to quote him: "The Song of Mary is one of the oldest Advent hymns. It is at once the most passionate, the wildest, one might even say the most revolutionary Advent hymns ever sung. This is not the gentle, tender, dreamy Mary whom we sometimes see in paintings. This song has none of the sweetness, nostalgic, or even playful tones of some of our Christian carols. It is instead a hard, strong, inexorable song about the power of God and the powerlessness of humanity." That's a great statement. It sums up the gospel, the power of God and the powerlessness of humanity. And sadly, sometimes we forget the reason for the season, and we get off into the secular side, and it's just human nature. We enjoy the winter season as much as the non-Christians. We just have to keep our focus. And I always tell you, keep your focus, keep your eyes on the Lord. The second reason for this theme is God's reversing, at this point, our perceptions. Mary's using words, statements about God scattering the proud, bringing down the mighty. He fills the hungry and sends the richest away empty. It's very different how society then, as well as now, sees life. God came for the sinner. God came for the meek. God came for the weak. And God's going to do great and wonderful things with those people that society might think less of. And I think Mary's letting us know right up front, good things are happening. His son's on the way. Her son's on the way. And the third reason this song is put in here is it brings us not only the poetry of the Hebrew scriptures and the Psalms, but also the prophecy. You know, this is really about the long-awaited Messiah and the connection between the Messiah that the Jews are expecting and the son that Mary's carrying. And it's very similar to the prayer of Hannah we find in today's readings in chapter 1 of or chapter 2 of First Psalms, Samuel. And we see a great correlation, a lot of similarities, and we even find the similarities in the 113th Psalm, which is the first Hallel. And Mary's song may be only 10 verses long, but we find at least in my study 15 discernible quotes from the Hebrew scriptures and extensively from the Hebrew poetry. And the fourth, and probably the most important reason, the Song of Mary and Zacharias, for that matter, was inserted was to help us understand the expectations of the first Jewish readers or listeners of the passage. Luke, in his gospel, spends a great time in trying to explain who Jesus is, what he's doing, where he comes from. And here at the beginning of his gospel, we find Luke wants the people to understand the expected Messiah is here. He wants us to draw the correlation between the Old Testament passages in Psalms from poetry and prophecy, and he does a great correlation, almost sometimes word for word, in his passage. He's using both Mary and Zacharias, who would know and understand Jesus and his coming and what it meant to the people. So he's using their expectations of our Lord's coming as to righting the wrong, to straightening the world, reversing the injustices. And it's just a great passage when you look through some of the commentaries and some of the great writers on this passage. And I encourage you, as I always encourage you, to read the scriptures. And I always encourage you, get a great commentary, get some dictionaries. I find that this was a really fun passage to look back on the Old Testament and then what St. Luke was getting across to us. I think that we should have fun with the scriptures. It should be enjoyable. There's always those aha moments, and I think that for me this was a great passage to study. And I encourage you, take a little bit of time, use the internet. It's easy, it's fast. I think you're going to have fun with the scriptures. Just well, I hope you do, because I did. And folks, as I end this reflection, I want to think that Mary was really thoughtful about this. This was a lot for a young girl who's the Lord came to. Was expecting great things from her. And I think that we should be like Mary in this season, especially this Advent season. As Mary was expecting her son in the manger, and we're expecting him now, I think that we should be thoughtful of not only our praises to the Lord, but thoughtful for just the folks around us. I think that we should be thoughtful for the homeless folks, It's a tough time for them, peeps. It's a real tough time. They have lost everything, and whether it's their fault or it just happened. I think we should be thoughtful for the folks that are struggling in the hospitals and the hospices. We should extend the love of God. We should extend the love of Christ, the same love and compassion and mercy that was extended to us. I think this is the time, especially in Advent, that we really need to reach out and touch people. We need to use the Virgin Mary's thoughtfulness to inspire us to do great things for the Lord. Well, folks, that's my reflections for today. I hope you enjoyed them. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord hold you in the palm of his hand until we meet again.